Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, colleagues, and ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to present to you my articles entitled Pandemic COVID-19 News Coverage and Analysis of Verbal Processes in Aswaq News Portal. My name is Marwan from USIM. To begin with, as we already know, and a lot has been talked about, the pandemic COVID-19 has emerged by the end of 2019, and until now, they have been affected. In fact, almost more than 200 million people, and caused almost 5 million deaths worldwide. And this number is keep increasing day by day. It's very worrying to everybody, and since it has been known as a pandemic. The virus unfortunately has been first discovered in Wuhan in central China, and it spread rapidly into other countries all over the world, including our nation, Malaysia. So my paper aims to examine the Arabic online news discourse, particularly of Aswaq news portal, in providing the news coverage of the pandemic in Malaysia, particularly by focusing on the verbal processes which has been used strategically in the news report of the news portal of Aswaq. The analytical framework which has been used in this study is utilized based on the idea of Feklo, Norman Feklo. He proposed more systematical analytical framework based on 3 layers, which connect between microanalysis of text with the macro level of discourse. In other words, the analysis does not only focus on the text, the linguistic feature of the text, but also extend to examine, to critically examine the social context, the discursive practice, and the social practice of the discourse. It is represented through the dimension, the 3 dimension proposed by Feklo, begin with the textual dimension, moving toward in the second layer into the discursive practice, and finally in the broader sense of social dimension. So it is crucial to understand what is a verbal process itself. Verbal process is part of Michael Halliday functional grammar framework. Particularly, we're talking about the transitivity system, which has been proposed by Michael Halliday within his functional grammar, Nahw Wadhifi in Arabic. It is concerned about process of saying. More precisely, is about symbolically signaling ideas, means, words. According to Halliday functional grammar, verbal process is it is intermediate, sit in the middle between mental and material process within the system of transitivity under the Michael Halliday functional grammar. In short, verbal process is related to any kind of symbolic exchange of meaning. Verbal process, once again, a verbal process is related to any kind of symbolic exchange of meaning in the process of indicating of meaning. Hence, the analysis of verbal process is very crucial in terms of critically analyzing discourse, particularly in terms of media discourse, because it can unveil, it can show that how journalists use specific verbal process to emphasize certain meaning and marginalize or dismiss other meaning and push readers' understanding into certain direction based on the strategic use of verbal process. So before we start to talk about the result of the study, it's better to us to look at what is Aswaq, Arabic news portal. Aswaq in Arabic mean markets, plural. According to Arabic history or Arab history, market has been a place people gathered together to exchange not only goods, things, but also exchange news and information. In the past, where poets go there to promote their poems, to deliver their poems. It's very rich culture of Arabic tradition. So Aswaq has been operated in Kuala Lumpur since 12 years ago. This the first outlet to produce a bilingual news magazine in both English and Arabic about Malaysia. So Aswaq used a motto which is known as Malaysia wal Alam al Arabi, is to promote the function of the portal as a bridge of information between Malaysia and the Arab world, meaning that Aswaq provide news and information to the Arab audience worldwide, particularly in the Middle East in Arab world. So the main aim, according to Aswaq, is the portal, news portal, provide high quality of news and information from authentic sources to the reader of various background, particularly those in Arab world. This is the examples, the front page of the Aswaq news portal. In previous, the print magazine, they still a print magazine, news magazine, but the most prominent or the main focus now is more on the internet news portal, and the news portal also provide a special section about COVID-19. This is where they gather all the news related to pandemic. So this study analyzed about 220 news articles published by the Aswaq news portal between January and June 2020, all about the pandemic, how Malaysia deals with the pandemic, and the data has been converted to the plain text to deal with the requirement of Corpus Analytical Software, ANCOM, and the analytical framework, as I have been said, utilize the critical discourse analysis. The result. In short, there is no clear-cut or a consistent approach of taking side, either toward the government side or the opposition side, either the protagonist or the antagonist sides. However, the data also indicate that the positive verbal process were most of the time and more frequently in the corpus data were associated with the protagonist group, mainly because the news portal more frequently report on the government side compared to the Malaysian opposition groups. This does not mean that Aswaq has marginalized the voice of antagonists, particularly the Malaysian opposition group, and treat them as the outgroup. It is nice to see, or it's very interesting to find that in many times the voice of antagonists, the opposition particularly, has been been reported in positive tones by utilizing a positive verbal process. And however, the voice of antagonists, the government side, is outnumber the voice of an protagonist in a huge gap. This is the occurrence in terms of neutral, positive, and negative. This is the example. The 10 highest verbal process has been used in the corpus data. And this is the example, for instance, reporting on Mahyuddin words by using akkada or adafa. He explained, he elaborate, which promoting him with a very bright idea. In contrast, this is the antagonist side, the opposition side, how the newspaper report on the Malaysian opposition party. And as I said earlier, it used also positive verbal process, a'lana wa shaddada. This is akkada, so to emphasize, to stress, to confirm. We show the wisdom of the sayer in delivering this word. All this also promote positive or very good connotation about the sayer. So in conclusion, I would like to say that the analysis of corpus data in this study shown that the voice of authority, government side, were the most dominant source of word reported in Aswaq news pertaining the pandemic. Although the antagonist voice is not so frequent in the corpus data compared to the government side, in many occasions the voice of opposition leaders has been reported in positive tone, by using verbal process, positive verbal process, such as announce, explain, and emphasize, which traditionally is more associated to the government side. Thank you so much for your kind attention. If any question, please ask or send me an email. Thank you so much for this opportunity.